Hello friends, welcome back to the Ray Moon Oracle. I'm Ray, and today we are continuing with our Tarot Discovery series, presenting the Two of Swords. So we're coming back in with our Sword series. So we've done the Ace already, we're coming in with the Two today. And Two of Swords is a very strong card. In terms of energy, it's one that I don't always like to see when it pops up, along with the one we'll do after, which is the Three of Swords. But for Two of Swords, let's go over our keywords here. So for Two of Swords, the keywords are stalemate, choices, denial, falsehood, unbalanced, duality, indecision, tension, blocked vision, ignorance, pretending, resolution, impasse, avoidance, and crossroads. So not a ton of positive words in there, not all negative words either, but just not like, it's not necessarily a positive card most of the time when it comes out. So in terms of numerology, obviously we have the two there, so that is talking about our balance, our duality, our opposition. It also talks about union, partnerships, and diplomacy though, which is interesting to note. This card is coming out in terms of a reading for a yes or no. It's going to be a maybe, which is a fun one because we definitely have that duality, those choices there. So it's always going to be a maybe. I wouldn't even say in the upright or reverse it's a yes or a no. It's going to be pretty much a maybe in whatever way it comes out. For astrology associations, of course, we're in the sort of this suit of the sword. Our suit is swords, so that is still our air sign. So of course that is our Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. This is also card like the Ace of Swords, still has strong Venus and Libra energy because we're talking about balance and duality, and that scales that happens with Libra. So really strong connection to Libra still for the Two of Swords. So our common elements that we kind of have in it, you're going to see as we're going through the cards is going to be the blindfold and of course the swords here, right? So our blindfold is going to be talking about purposely blinding ourselves, not wanting to see things for what they really are, having a blocked vision, not wanting to see the truth of a situation. And our swords is, depending on how we're looking at it or perceiving it, that is that our energy that's like clashing against each other here, or it could be working together. We'll see it very specifically with the Santa Muerte card I picked for us up today to look at. But with the swords, it's a situation that could be equally good or bad, depending on how you're looking at it, because we have that equal and opposite energy or those opposing forces here. So let us take a look at the three cards I picked for us today. So one on top here that we'll talk about first is going to be the one from the Light Sears Tarot here. So I like the Light Sears Tarot. I like the ravens representing the swords here. I think that is a very smart representation for the birds and that air energy being very strong. And we can kind of see with our figure here, more feminine figure, being very caught up in the threads that are attached to these crows here, right? You can just see they're all tangled up together. There's lots of confusion and a little bit of chaos going on here, right? We see on the tattoo of the arm of our figure here, we kind of see those scales, so that balance, that Libra energy coming in with this Two of Swords energy here. Of course, we have the two crows / ravens, whichever bird they might be, so that's representing our two here. And then our figure does have the blindfold on as well. Something to note with the blindfold though, right? It's a very purposeful element that is shown here. In the original right away imagery, we see our figure and they're holding the two swords across from each other, so kind of blocking that heart energy, but the swords are balanced. Also with the blindfold on. The blindfold here really representing the choice to block our own vision. It's really easy to put down a sword and take off the blindfold, right? Or you can still be holding on to both swords and still take off the blindfold. But why did we put it on in the first place, right? Why did we put it on before we even started upholding these two swords, these two opposing forces at the same time? So interesting note here, right? And then with this figure in the Light Sears Tarot, lots of like confusion coming in, lots of that chaos and just kind of not knowing what's going on, not seeing the situation, not knowing what to do in the situation, right? If you can't, like, with that blindfold on and being all caught up in these strings, these threads that these birds are just like wrapping around your head, it's just going to get worse and worse as time goes on, right? That's talking about the situation as we're getting into the other meanings and the reversals here, where it's if we don't make a choice in the situation, then it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and progressively getting more difficult to handle in the long run. So really interesting to note with this card. We definitely got some of that like air wind energy with this card. We kind of see the sand in the bottom right hand corner of this card, so that flow, that movement, that can be present here if we are paying attention and we're in tune with ourselves and our intuition and our having a balanced heart and mind. We can kind of go with the flow of that energy here that is that air element. So anything else for this one? Not that I'm seeing. It's I like the representation for this card for our swords specifically. And you just really feel the indecisiveness, the choices here, the like major themes that is the Two of Swords energy present in this card specifically. Moving on though, our next one is from the Gilded Tarot. So this one I loved the color in, the kind of the blues and the purples here. The mask or the blindfold that's here is actually a set of wings, that's kind of more metallic-y wings on the eyes of this figure here, right? So again, that's air energy coming in. Of course, we had the wings from the Light Sears Tarot coming now in with the Gilded Tarot and blocking the vision all the same, right? What's different with the swords here is kind of the downward angle of them, usually with the Rider-Waite imagery, right? They're in that upright position on either side with the cross, versus down with this one, it's almost like the actual like two swords like hitting each other in like a battle with that kind of downward energy of it. The way the swords are crossing in the downwards position here. So showing that conflict a little bit more that can take place, especially with our Two of Swords here, and with the talking about partnerships. Could be any kind of partnership in a relationship, business, in a business sense or whatever, but it's like that meeting, that those disagreements that happen, like that clashing, that crossing of swords in this case, in like that more negative, like a disagreement way. And that's really showing up with this card specifically, which I think is interesting. What else with this one? It's different with this one. I liked this one because of mostly the color. I think it's a really strong color imagery. Usually with air, like the sword suit and the air suit, you're seeing a little bit more like yellow energy usually, but I think the blue really shows the confusion here. It's the confusion of the situations that a Two of Swords is usually puts you in, and you feel the like loss and the purposely blocked vision here in this card specifically, which is just interesting to note, and why I kind of liked it. That avoidance energy is more associated to me with that blue, but the really heavy focus on the mind with that kind of purpley color coming in, that reminds me of like the crown chakra here. So that like confusion of the mind, that blue and purple in color, that third eye being blocked as well, right? We kind of have that gem on the forehead here representing that third eye chakra. We have that crown energy, the blocked vision, which is our eyes, like is tied into the third eye. So a different way to look at it with a little bit more spiritual context for the Two of Swords here. With the last card I pulled, that one comes out of the Santa Muerte, and this one I thought was so cool, right? With a pair of scissors here. So the Santa Muerte with the skulls, we see it in the bottom of the pair of scissors here, right? Forming that like top half of the skull. And the scissors here with the upright, it's interesting because you can look at it with the handles, with the crossing, right, being the two swords and the clashing of swords, but those swords coming together, right, and in this case becoming scissors, and then working together to cut something to serve their purpose as a pair of scissors to actually be a tool in this case, which I thought was a very interesting contrast and interesting way to look at the card in both the positive and negative associations with it. So the sword's actually like being able to cut something properly, and you can kind of see where it's like they don't quite match up right, that like tip. Got a pair of scissors here, right? So the tip of these ones, right, if it's the crossing, it's almost like they got like split. Like if I was to like flip these around or whatever, take this apart and flip them the other way, that's kind of how the swords are. They're not quite meeting perfectly with that center. If you're looking at the card, the cutting part of the scissors are on the outside, which I think is very interesting here, showing the more of the clashing energy that's happening with the Two of Swords here in the Santa Muerte. That yellow color is going to be consistent across the sword suit in this deck specifically, so that yellow energy showing the swords in the air air element in the mind, which I think is interesting. But we do have some of that blue color, which is tying in with our Gilded Tarot that is showing up with this card specifically, kind of in the flowers here. So very interesting card, and I thought it was a really good representation and visual for the way swords can be. The duality of the swords here can be fighting, or it could be working together. It could be compromise. It could be that unity element, that balance. So showing the duality at the same time, which I thought was really, really cool. So those are our 3 cards that I picked for us. So let's go over the other meanings for the card. So we have avoiding truth, must make a choice, precarious position, self-reflection, getting all the facts. Our scales are unbalanced, so that Libra energy coming in. So we got false messages, tension in relationships, difficult to search for compromise or balance, accepting consequences, an important choice affecting others, 2 opposing forces, not facing the truth, intellect versus intuition, and sitting on the fence or being torn between something. So that's kind of the interesting for the upright, but the reverse isn't terribly different either. I think it's just how the energy is being perceived or worked through at the time for when this card shows up in the upright or the reverse. So with our reversals here, we've got reach a compromise, indecision, lies being exposed, delays, overwhelming fear, still in disagreement, path of destruction, yourself and others. So the path of destruction, how you're going about your path, and then others in doing the same thing and how that affects you, right? So we've got absence of justice, information overload, can't see the other person's perspective, stuck in the middle, truth revealed, make choices, and then deal because there is no good outcome, and choosing the lesser of 2 evils. So in this case, the 2 of Swords really comes down to the 2 choices being made in whatever given situation. And if it's in the upright, it's like we're kind of seeing, trying to figure out what's going on. We're trying to make sure we're not blind in the situation here, versus when it's kind of coming in the reverse and it's more negative aspect here, where we're really just like, okay, we got to just make a choice. Nothing's going to be a good choice at this point. It is whatever is the lesser of 2 evils, or we just got to make a choice, hope that it was the best choice we could at the time, and just deal with whatever consequences happen at this point. So interesting energy for 2 of Swords. It's really a refined, nuanced answer, really depending on the situation, right? But when 2 of Swords is coming out, just really look at what 2 options you're balancing here, what 2 options you have in front of you, and what you are potentially blinding yourself specifically to. What you might know the answer to the situation at hand, or what you need to choose, but you're purposely keeping yourself in the dark, or you are missing something in the situation and you need to dig a little bit deeper, find that truth, find out the whole situation so you can make an informed choice. So keep that in mind with 2 of Swords energy. It's very, very interesting how it can pop out in any given reading. But that is what I have for us today, friends. I hope you got a lot of good information out of this video. Please leave any comments or thoughts down below, and I'll get back to you. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.